Lee, thank you for your remarks and for your great ideas. I admire you very much, as I hope you know. But of late, I've been wondering whether it really matters very much who we elect to the Senate if the place is going to remain paralyzed. And consequently, I've become, for the time being, a single-issue voter. That single issue is majority rule, or in other words, the abolition of the filibuster. Where do you stand on that?
Get rid of it. You know, the filibuster might have had a role in history. It used to be used once or twice every decade. And if it was used strategically and sparingly, there was a role for it. Last year, the National Republican Party in the Senate opposed 80% of the legislation proposed by Barack Obama and the Democratic-led Senate using the filibuster. So 60 has become the new 51. It's wrong. Now, I do think that you need more than 51 votes to sign a treaty, amend the Constitution, but I don't think you should need more than 51 votes to put people back to work or to give them health care. So I would argue that the filibuster has outlived its usefulness. I don't know many people who in their everyday language use words like cloture and filibuster. Unfortunately, the Senate is made up of smart, well-intentioned men and women, but the chamber itself and the institution is out of touch and out of date. And the filibuster is a perfect example. So, although I don't like the fact that you're a single-issue voter, I agree with your single issue.
Yes, hi. What I'd like to know is that in your comments you talked about helping people move off of combustion engines and into hybrids or anything along those lines. There are a lot of people here in Northeast Ohio and throughout the state who would go even further and prefer to ride bicycles or even walk. We're also looking for the governor's support with the Department of Transportation in trying to get a bike and pedestrian lane built on the Innerbelt Bridge, and I wonder if you have any thoughts along those lines as to whether that fits into the new Ohio that you're trying to talk about.
Walkable cities, bike paths are a key component of what is sometimes called quality of place. Yesterday I was with Bruce Katz of the Brookings Institute, where he released a new report called Restoring Prosperity. And he talked about the fact that one of the key things today is to make sure that we have cities, in particular urban cores, that have a strong infrastructure and a high quality of place. Well, Kevin, I cannot speak directly to the issue of whether or not there should be those bike paths on the inner belt, because I know that the Ohio Department of Transportation has indicated there may be some safety issues. You will have no argument from me that we must do much more of that. Matt Zone has done a lot of that in his ward, and it is all part of creating a sustainable economy. We are sometimes called the Rust Belt, but the truth of the matter is we're the brain belt. And to have a brain belt, you need a high IQ. And so high IQ for me stands for, first, making sure that we invest in the H, human capital. Second, that we invest in the I of innovation. Third, that we invest in the I of infrastructure. And lastly, that we invest in the Q of quality of place. So while I'm not speaking directly to your question about the inner belt, because I still need to know more facts, and you and I have discussed it just recently at a pancake breakfast, I can tell you that we agree that we need more bikes, more multimodal transportation, and less cement.
Lieutenant Governor, question about you running for state. You're a state senator for Ohio, of course.
Yeah.
If you come to be elected as U.S. state senator from the state of Ohio, what would your comments be on health care reform?
Well, first of all, it is my hope that by the time I'm a U.S. senator, we will have had health care reform. People are arguing about what the lesson of Massachusetts was. Everybody has their own theory, and I have mine. I don't think it was about Democrats and Republicans, and I don't even think it was about health care. I think it was about a system that wasn't transparent, that wasn't accountable, and a Senate with both parties that couldn't get anything done and focused on what was wrong with the bill as opposed to what was right. I can almost guarantee you that if you were to sit down with somebody you know who is opposed to health care reform, and you ask them the following questions, I think most of them would say, yeah, I think I'd like that. How do you feel about discrimination for pre-existing conditions? No, I don't want that. How do you feel about exorbitant out-of-pocket expenses and deductibles or copays? Oh, I certainly don't want that. What about cost-sharing preventive care? No, I don't want that. What about dropping of coverage for the seriously ill? I certainly don't want that. What about gender discrimination? Absolutely not. What about lifetime caps on coverage? No, don't want that. What about extended coverage for young adults? I know I wanted that. My son's 25. And what about guaranteed insurance renewal? Here's my point. Unfortunately, those who have opposed health care reform have focused in on the parts of the bill, perhaps 10%, no more than 20% that they disagree with, rather than having both parties sit around and say, let's focus on the 80% we agree with. Now, President Obama, to his credit, is taking that approach as we speak. And it is my hope and my expectation that the partisanship will be set aside, that there will be no side deals for senators for their particular states. And by the way, it was my party who did that, and I do not defend it, condone it. In fact, I condemn it. But instead, that we are going to focus on those things that are going to reduce premiums, increase access, and make sure that people have a chance to high-quality health care. We should be able to do that. And yes, maybe we'll have to improve it when I get there. But I want to make sure when I get there, there's health care reform for men and women in this country and children. They deserve it, and it needs to get done.
Got me here. Hi. Well, Joyce Bork-Jones, the Sustainability Officer for Cuyahoga County. Your position on cap and trade. Be interested in hearing it.
Sure. Well, first, let me begin by saying to you that I don't think there is any legitimate dispute about global warming. Councilman Zone just came back from Copenhagen, one of the few people in Ohio who were there, and wrote an excellent op-ed piece on it. Climate change is a real problem. Environmental protection and economic growth, however, are not enemies. We create all too often a false choice between protecting our environment and growing our economy. Sherrod Brown has done a wonderful job of articulating this. I'm a life member of the Sierra Club. Sherrod is a longtime protector of the environment. But we both share the view that you do not solve the climate problem on the backs of manufacturing states like Ohio. You just can't do that. So as a result, what you need to do is make sure that you're not displacing the carbon from America to China. If you do not have similar caps and trades, as they call it, or clean energy incentives for the other countries that are passing us by and manufacturing their goods without any of those limits, what happens? Manufacturing jobs in America and in Ohio, particularly in Ohio, get lost. So what Sherrod has proposed and other Midwestern senators have proposed are something called border adjustments. And that is that we're going to impose some tariffs on those countries that do not agree to address global warming and climate change the same way as America does. Level the playing field so we're not putting Ohioans out of work at the same time we're protecting the environment.